Let's be honest, sometimes kindergartners don't follow directions because they're not listening. Not because they're confused, not because the task is too difficult. They just aren't listening. You say it, they hear it, and then do something completely different. If you feel like you spend your entire day repeating directions, redirecting kids, and saying the same things over and over again, this episode is for you. Because getting students to follow directions the first time isn't about longer explanations, louder reminders, or even better wording. It's about structure, visual, and consistency. And today, I'm breaking down exactly how to use those to make directions actually stick in your kindergarten classroom. Welcome to the Kindergarten Toolbox Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Murray, here to help you simplify kindergarten with tools and strategies that actually work with real live 5 and 6-year-olds. Let's dive into your shortcut to calmer days and more confident writers. Here's the honest truth. Kindergarten students are easily distracted. They're definitely impulsive, but they're still developing attention control. They're still learning how to focus, and they're surrounded by constant stimulation, sometimes overstimulated, right? So yes, sometimes they aren't listening, and that's developmentally totally normal. But that doesn't mean we need to lower our expectations. It just means we need to adjust our support. We need to modify how we give directions because they're not ready for multi-step directions yet. Their brains aren't there. We need to make our expectations more clear so that they understand exactly what we're expecting of them. And we need to give students strong visual and routine-based supports that help them follow directions successfully. Because kids don't learn to follow directions by being told multiple times over and over again the same thing. They learn when we show them, we support them, and we give them the consistency and the structure they need to make that success possible. So many classrooms rely on voice-based management, meaning the teacher is talking, that's how you're getting your directions, that's how you're getting your content, that's the delivery, right, is talking. And more talking, more reminding, more explaining, more correcting, it's all verbalized. Verbal directions, unfortunately, disappear as soon as you say them. So you may be practicing giving directions and then have a student demonstrate it and another student demonstrate it, and then we all do it. And that is a highly effective way to practice routines and things like that. But directions, when you want students to do them independently, have to be paired with a visual support. Because without it, like I said, as soon as you're done talking, the direction is gone. And even the students who were trying to listen the first time may have trouble remembering step 3 by the time they get to their seat. And while, yes, sometimes that is an act of defiance, they just don't want to do it, more often, it's a lack of structure and support that they need to be able to follow multi-step directions. Because remember, we're dealing with 5 and 6-year-olds here, and their brains are still developing. Here's where things really start to shift. Visual direction supports aren't just helpful, they're total classroom game changers. I am such a big believer in visuals and how they can level the playing field for all of your learners. They're just so powerful and underutilized in so many classrooms. Think about when you're giving directions. You say them, and then they disappear. You're relying on students to auditory process those and move on. And so many people, even grown-ups, can't do that. They need a checklist. They need something to keep them on track when there's more than one step to something. But when you pair those verbal directions with a picture and a visual, they stay accessible for everyone. Think about how many times a day you say things like, get your pencil, put that away, clean up, push in your chair, line up, Stop talking. Sit up on the carpet. Start your work. What are you doing? Right? You're repeating these things all day long. But for kids, it's still just auditory language out there. And sometimes, unless there's something concrete attached to it, it's just not clicking for them. When you use picture direction cards, you're doing something different. You're turning that language into structure. So now when you're finished with your lesson and getting ready to send them off for their independent work, and you're going through the steps that they need to complete, pair it with a simple visual. Like if they're going to work on math, they need their math paper, have a picture of that. Then they need to write their name at the top, have a picture for that. If they are working on addition, maybe a plus sign for the addition part or whatever your math class symbol is, right? If they have to color part of that worksheet, make sure there's a crayon. So you're telling them what to do and pairing it with a visual. Now the directions aren't just something that they heard once. It's something they can use as a point of reference. And this matters, especially for students with short attention spans, language delays, students who aren't native English speakers, right? Kids who have extra sensory and processing needs. And honestly, most kindergarten brains in general. Visuals reduce the thinking load. Kids don't have to remember every single direction. They can look back at it and be like, oh yeah, that's what Mrs. Murray said. And it changes behavior because they're not confused anymore. They know that they have a place to go when they aren't sure what to do next. When kids don't know what to do, they'll wander around your classroom. They'll copy from a friend. They'll ask questions. They'll come interrupt your lessons. They'll drive you crazy, or they'll sit and do absolutely nothing, which will also drive you crazy. But when they can see what to do, they move with more confidence. Visuals don't just support listening, they support independence, self-regulation, and follow-through, and they level the playing field for all of your learners. It's why visuals shouldn't be seen as something extra. They're really the structure you need for a well-run classroom. Here's the part a lot of teachers miss. Visuals don't work without routine and consistency. If your expectations are changing all the time, kids are going to stop trusting your system. If the procedures constantly shift, they don't internalize them. They're not going to become second nature. But routines are consistent, predictable, practiced, and kids know them. Then they're following directions before reminders because you've paired all of this with visual supports just in case they forget. That is the sweet spot for classroom management. If all that sounds great, but you're not sure where to start, I would start with asking myself a pretty simple question when I'm giving directions. If I were not talking to them, do students see what they're supposed to be doing? If that answer is no, add a visual. And these visuals can be as simple as a little picture card. You can take pictures of your own items in your own classroom and post those on a board. I put magnets on the back and just stuck them up on my magnetic whiteboard. Easy for me to say. And then I would switch those every time I gave a direction. And pretty soon it becomes a routine and a habit to put certain cards up so you'll have them available every time you give a direction. And that way you're prepared. Then it becomes habit forming to pair your directions with a visual. And your classroom truly can transform when you're using these consistently. You'll save your voice, you'll save your sanity, you'll stop the constant interruptions, and you'll find kids actually following directions without you constantly telling them what to do. If you are looking for ready-to-use picture direction cards to support common classroom routines, especially for kindergarten, I have a set in our shop, and I'll link those in the show notes. We also have our Classroom Visuals bundle, which also includes visual schedules and all different things like how to sit on the carpet and expectations posters that you can use to set all of your expectations without losing your sanity. So I will link that in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. Getting kids to follow directions the first time isn't a magical thing. It's about building systems that work with how their brains are really functioning. Less talking, more structure, Clear visuals and consistent routines will get you there. And that's what creates calm classrooms. Thanks for listening to the Kindergarten Toolbox. I'm Amy. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Kindergarten Toolbox. I'm Amy Murray, and I'm so glad you're here. Be sure to check the show notes for all the links and resources from today's episode. For even more tips, tools, and support, head to teachingexceptionalkinders.com or connect with me on Instagram at teachingexceptionalkinders. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow along and subscribe to the show and take a minute to leave a review. It helps other kindergarten teachers to find us too. Teaching kindergarten is tough, but you're not alone. Here's to calmer days and more confident writers. You've got this.